We are back yet again. Here we go now for another episode of Laying It Down with Big D. Okay, we got to be careful with those shorts. Summertime's almost coming to a close, so we'll be wearing pants soon enough, I imagine. Though it's Arizona anyway. I digress. Today I'm joined by fellow esports enthusiast all around. He's been working in esports for a while now. We just talked about this. He's taking a little bit of a break. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank God. He's frozen on my iPad over here. I think my iPad's having a conniption and needs an update or a reboot or something, but that's neither here nor there. He's worked in esports for a while. He's got a new job that maybe he'll share that with us here in a moment, but he's working as a tournament organizer. You've been a freelance tournament organizer now for a while. You've seen him at Frag 18. I got Brennan KrittR Wright with me. Is it KrittR? Is it KrittR or KrittR?
KrittR.
It's KrittR. God, dude.
I get it all the time. Don't even worry. It's esports.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. You're good.
God,
your
dude.
video's been freezing on my screen a little bit, but your audio's been fine the whole time.
There we go. Well, it's fine over here, but my God. Okay, Brennan, how are you doing today?
Good. Just settling down for the night, got off work, and kind of just got on this. So get ready to play some Counter-Strike tonight. Probably lose half the matches, as you do.
Oh yeah, as you do. What are you playing right now?
I was playing the Battlefield beta this past weekend, so I'm having a little bit of withdrawals from that. Being gone until October finally feels like a Battlefield game, which we haven't had in a long time. So pretty excited for that. Then been trying to get back into playing some Counter-Strike. Haven't quite jumped back into Premier yet, but getting there.
Are you playing Face It matches?
Not yet. No, I am beyond washed. I've just been messing around in competitive. I really just play once or twice a week with some friends.
That's what Face It.
Yeah, I have some friends I play with that just like aren't quite up there yet, so we just kind of mess around in competitive. I've been meaning to get into Face It though. I've been just procrastinating on getting back into it and playing there.
Well, and sorry for interrupting you there while you were talking. That audio issues came up over here. I apologize. So it's just like it looks like it's amateur hour out here with Big D, which let's be honest, it is. But yeah, dude, that's sick. I know, dude. I read your opinions about the Battlefield beta. I think you're very well spoken and have some very organized thoughts as well. It is a fun game. I'm looking forward to whenever the hardcore mode is on that game. Like when hardcore mode is available, I will absolutely go bonkers for Battlefield, maybe, because of the fact that I just did not like the time to kill on that game. But that was really I didn't play it. I played maybe like 5 hours.
Time to kill, honestly, it felt fast for a Battlefield game for me. Which I was fine with. Traditionally, it's been very, very slow. You can really just mag dump into people. And like, if you think back to like 3 and 4, but my biggest gripe was probably the size of the maps. Felt a little Call of Duty-esque, not as Battlefield. And I mean, you get your random visual bugs, audio bugs that come in here and there, but it's a beta, so those are kind of expected. And then, I mean, like I tweeted about, there's some balancing issues. The RPG felt very frustrating. Especially against infantry.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that one too. That was like, hi, if a guy is standing on top of a rocket when it goes off on the ground next to him, it should not tickle him, and then he mows me down while I try to reload. Yeah. I think he's dead, and everyone that's standing next to the rocket should also be dead. Like.
Yeah,
enemies they don't need to do huge outside damage, but for the love of God.
Yeah, no, that was like, you see the enemy suppressed, and then, like you said, you get mowed down. It was like, okay.
Well, dude, let's take it back in time here. Let's take it all the way back. First off, what is like your current esport that you're like following and most into? It is
It's
Counter-Strike.
Counter
Is that
Strike,
like your
yeah.
always go to?
Yeah, Counter Strike's. I mean, Counter Strike is my intro to esports. It's always got the place in my heart as my number one. So,
Okay,
I kind of
okay,
stopped watching
perfect.
it for a
Well,
while, but I'm back into it and starting to follow it again.
perfect. Here we go. I got this for you, pal. If your video didn't freeze, my brain did. It what are your earliest memories of gaming in your life, and how did they lead you to Counter Strike?
So I think the earliest memory I will have of gaming, and I messed around on consoles before and whatever my parents had, but like I think the first point I really remember of like personally loading up and like wanting to play a video game and enjoying it was I forget the exact title, but it was a NASCAR game on PlayStation 2. This is when I don't know how old, but I was young. And I started there. I kind of started to dabble in a variety of games. You know, I was a big Wii guy. Me and my buddy played Animal Crossing City Folk, I think it was. And I got into shooters around the time of Bad Company 2, which just brings it back to Battlefield. So Battlefield is really my first shooter. Starting the Battlefield 2, I've owned pretty much every Battlefield since then, with the exception. No, I've owned all of them. And Counter Strike came into the picture when it was around middle school. All my friends started to get PCs. We were all on Xbox before, and then one by one, everybody started to get computers, and then I was one of the last ones who made the switch over. And naturally, one of the first things you download at my age was Gary's Mod, which requires
Mm-hmm.
you buy CSS for the textures. So my intro to Counter Strike was buying, of even discovering it, was buying CSS for Gary's Mod textures, and you know, getting into the esports side of it and getting into Counter Strike Go was when I discovered Twitch, and it was Katowice. I think it was Katowice 14 just happened to be on the front page. And at that point, I really wasn't too aware of Counter Strike Go. I wasn't even too aware of esports. I just happened upon Twitch, trying to find, I forget who it was. Some YouTuber at the time announced, "Oh, I'm streaming," so I'm like, "Oh, I'll go check that out." And lo and behold, here's Counter Strike on the front page, and I ended up watching that tournament and getting super hooked on it.
Dude,
And here
I
I am
feel like
today.
that was like yeah, I feel like that was the first tournament I watched too. I think there was some the Yeah, because I started playing Counter Strike and I was like, man, this because I'd just always known about it,
Yeah,
and I finally got a PC in 2013 at towards the end of it, and like on CS:GO's 1 year birthday, and I started playing, and I just wanted to play Counter Strike, and I got Counter Strike, and I loved it, and like 2 or 3 months later, my friend tells me, hey, there's like professionals that play this game, right? And I was like, what the fuck? How I went 23 years without knowing of like professional gaming outside of like Halo MLG days, which I thought were
yeah.
dead and gone, just some blip in the past. I'll never know. Big D didn't have a big awakening until later on in life, but that's neither here nor there. Either way, dude, yeah, I mean, it's those old days, those were the I don't want to call them the glory days, but that was a really golden era of.
Well, they really were. Like I do call them the glory days. I'm not like hesitant to call it that.
I
It's
know,
like
but that implies they won't come back. And
I
I want to call, I want to trust that they'll come back someday.
I don't know if that implies it won't come back. I think that just implies that that's like maybe not necessarily the greatest, but I don't know. Maybe it's the nostalgia of it, because like It's
You're
like,
right. It is the glory days though. That's what it
yeah.
is.
And it's like I kind of look at it as a glory days, not necessarily that like we won't beat those days. I think we're coming up on a period of Counter Strike that very much could beat that in terms of level of competition, quality of events. But you just look at that era where it was really, I mean, Counter Strike in 2012 to 2014 was a game that really defined esports. I mean, you had what, League of Legends kind of before that starting to pick up, StarCraft, and
And StarCraft, yeah.
yeah, which even with how big they are, they're regional. Um, Counter Strike started the European, but it was really one of those ones that started to get that global audience and had such a big showing, and it was one of those things that grew. I feel like a lot quicker, especially with people who are on the fringe of it. You know, people who are watching LCS, it's a lot of those people. They are League players, and they are people who really are into League of Legends. Counter Strike is something, and why it's been so successful viewership wise. I mean, you look at E League; it's one of the two games they ran on national television in the U.S., and it was really the only one that was as successful as it was. Is it's super easy to digest. It's 5v5. One team's attacking, one's defending. You know, it's a little bit difficult the shooter aspect of it in terms of ratings and audience levels. And we ran into that a lot in the Scholastic space, but overall, it's a digestible game. It's easily accessible. I mean, it's free to play now. It wasn't before, but even then, it was relatively cheap to get into until you discovered cases, and it wasn't. But um, it's such an easy game to get into as a viewer. And it just grew so rapidly and allowed us to have these huge prize pools, go to these super cool venues across the world that, I mean, like I said, you saw League of Legends doing that, but they were really the only ones. And Counter-Strike is the only one that had the open ecosystem and really still is the most open ecosystem with really any tier 1 esport. And they really pioneered that of just Valve saying, hey, we'll step back, we'll contribute to the major. Outside of that, you know, if you want to run tournaments, you do you, which is very rare.
That I mean, yeah, and there's definitely arguments for and against this, but that's one of the things that sets Valve apart from all
Yeah,
other like developers and 100% other developers in the live service esports
yeah,
like space, right? Is they let their community figure it out.
yeah.
We made the game, you guys figure out what you want to do with it.
And not
And
only,
like,
sorry, I was gonna say, not only do they let you figure it out, but they step in if there's any shenanigans going on. You look at the franchise models for these leagues that they were trying to lock stuff down. I mean, Flashpoint was one at the time. ESL was doing it. Blast wanted to do it, and then Valve, just to keep it open, because if those really started to develop, they locked teams into those, and they were intentionally making their schedules busy so they couldn't play in other tournaments. They really make sure things stay open. Anybody can host tournaments. No exclusivity. They'll never sign that. At least with Counter Strike. But it's been critical to the success of not even just the esport, but I feel like the esports industry in general.
yeah, dude. Well, and I, I, I think they could step in more, honestly, especially with this VRS
I
stuff,
agree.
because this VRS stuff has been definitely a bit messy this year. But we were talking about this before we started recording, but like, I I think this VRS system is pretty damn cool. Ever since I learned about it, I was like, that makes sense. We should have a world ranking system for teams. And I predicted at the beginning of the year before it was implemented, I was like, you know what? I think this thing is going to have a really sloppy rollout. It is going to be rocky for probably a year or two. But once this thing is figured out, we're going to have a really great like Valve is going to have a decent handle on the professional scene, which is really where that's more what they've needed to like have the handle on, right? Is the professional scene, because that has been kind of a wild west out
Yeah.
there. I guess I just explained all my thoughts on the VRS. Do you care to share yours?
Yeah, I mean, I've
And
been I've been a defender since day one. There's a lot of people who hate it. There's a lot of people who like it. I feel like people are coming around to it, but when it launched, I feel like it was more so people hated it. Combination of the classic Counter-Strike player hates change, but also a lot of skepticism around it. Worry that Valve was taking too big of a step, and we're going to start kind of closing off the ecosystem. But I mean, you look at Philadelphia, I think is the biggest example of early success with the VRS model. Is it promotes tier 2 competition and organizers coming in and running these tournaments, and kind of forces teams to be able to go to these. You can't sit around as a Complexity or a Fnatic or an NIP anymore. If you're a fringe team for those invites, or one that could get knocked out, you can't sit around and just say, no, we're only going to play in the big leagues that have these org shares, like Blast, like the ESL, real one-offs like PGL for the major. You kind of have to go to these events and put revenue into these tier 2 organizers. And my prediction is we're going to see a lot more growth due to the VRS model, which is going to be great for the ecosystem overall.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I feel like a lot of the like I mean, right now, part of the reason that it has been great that like the big tournament organizers have been able to put on the giant spectacle that they have
Yeah.
for free for the last 10
Oh
plus
yeah.
years, right? It costs money to go down to the event, so they recoup some of their costs that way. But there's still people that there's all these different people that it like requires a lot of people to like put on those events that they have to pay. It's a lot of money to broadcast it. It like
Yeah.
as
And
much as I love the fact that they've done that for us for the last like 10 plus years, it is time to like have like more people aware of more than just these like this like 0.0001% of Counter-Strike players,
yeah.
because the game is just more interesting when you've got people coming through. You're gonna have donks, you're gonna have Zywus, you're gonna have Monacies that all sit at the top at all times because they really are the best
Yeah.
and will stay there. But like rotate through these other teams that are just fringe teams, you know?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's gonna create those opportunities for those fringe teams or those fringe players coming up, which is part of the reason I stopped watching Counter Strike for a while. Is because I felt like it got very stale. It was so rare to see a new team coming up or a new player coming up. It was anytime you look, it was same old, and it just like felt like nothing was really changing. And there really weren't there really weren't bigger tournaments where you could see those fringe teams compete against the big teams, because they were in their own ecosystem. Tier 2 was struggling in their own ecosystem. We're kind of seeing them merge again. It's really starting in NA with Philadelphia. I can't think of any other tournaments off the top of my head that would apply in like Europe or other regions, but it's a great example of that blending of like lower tier 1 and upper tier 2 starting to come into one. It's more of a gradual climb up versus having to make that huge leap, and the reality is having a little bit of luck and getting discovered.
Yeah, there's definitely still luck involved in a lot of things, but
Yeah.
I just overall think this VRS system is going to be I think it's just I I just think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I think that Valve needs to make sure that also, like, have you seen the stuff about like some of these tournament organizers? I haven't read too deeply into it, but I've been seeing the stuff about tournament organizers just like swapping stuff out at the last minute, and like
Yeah,
Valve kind of shrugs their shoulders at it.
I haven't read too much, but that's one of my biggest gripes right now about the VRS system. Is if you are going to be mandating this VRS system, you have to be on top of enforcing it. You can't implement this rating system and then half-ass, well, I don't really want to do anything about it, so we're going to let this one slide. You really have to be, this is letter of the law. It is written this way. This is how we're enforcing it. They have to enforce it like you're a TO. It may suck, and it doesn't matter if it's the big team or the small team. You have to say, no, this is how it is. These are the rules. If you don't follow them, you're not a VRS event. Um, and that is going to be the biggest decider of to the success of the VRS system, because if they can gerrymander it however they want, then it completely loses its point.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of the growing pains of it. I definitely think that HLTV has some hand in like how the shenanigans of some of these things happening. I think HLTV has somewhat of a hand in as well, and responsibility to take part in, because Valve has, I don't know a ton about it, but I do know enough that like Valve has handed off a lot of like the reins on like what is or isn't ranked, and like passes the ranking test and contributes to HLTV, and
Really.
like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. Here's our rule set. We'll update it, and if we know about something, we'll take action. But like for the most part, I think the 10 developers that might be working on this game are working on this game, and
Yeah.
that's that. They're not paying attention to tier 1 Counter-Strike. Like these are guys that like probably catching bugs or mountain climbing or playing music in their spare time or something like that. Not tier 1 Counter-Strike. So uh yeah, I think HLTV has a bit of responsibility in it as well. Well, let's talk more about you. We've been I I knew this would be a good episode because I remember talking to you in Kansas City when I met you there, and being able to just yap for a while. So, but tell us more about Brennan here. Are you what's what how did once you got into Counter Strike and you saw Katowice, what was the journey from there to now being a tournament organizer and your involvement in esports?
A lot of networking and luck. I kind of had the ADHD fixation on it from discovering, and at the time I was in high school. A couple years later, I started high school. I think it was like probably freshman year, sophomore year. I really started to get into the esports side of things, and I was curious about, well, there's a professional scene. Can I play in high school? Because at the time I could hold my own in some lower ESEA. I never really competed that much, but um, I could definitely hold my own. And I was like, yeah, it could kind of be fun to compete on a high school team if that's a thing, or could I start a team? And I started doing research and came across the high school esports league. Just luck through googling, and I reached out to the owner at the time and said, "Hey, I want to get involved." They were only running League of Legends at the time, and it was just one dude running these tournaments. You just had to be high school aged, create a team. Didn't have to be from the same school in their League of Legends tournaments. I said, "Hey, I want to bring Counter Strike to this," and that's kind of where originally it was, "Hey, do you have Counter Strike?" And then I kind of had the conversations of, "Well, you don't have Counter Strike. Can I help you build the Counter Strike League?" Because at this point, I've been watching tournaments. I've been getting super interested in running these tournaments, and it was pretty much an immediate yes. The interview process at the time was a 15-minute Skype call, um, and then them handing over the credentials for everything, which in today's climate would be crazy to do. But that was esports back then. It was people in Discord servers running these tournaments. So I was able to come in. There were a few other guys that came in. Roll Need, he was one of them. He came in around the same time as I did. You know him. He was at Fragadelphia, and
Shout out Elijah,
yeah,
if I'm
shout out Elijah.
remembering that name right.
Yeah, 100%. Um,
Okay, thank God.
and us two kind of pioneered bringing in Counter Strike to the high school space. And HSCL at the time was the largest, still very small, but it was the largest high school competition. And we wrote the original rule book. We implemented everything. At the time, we were just telling people to use Pop Flash servers back when it was Pop Flash, and that continued until they said, "Hey, you have too many people doing this. You can't be using our service for that," which was fair enough. We started to have a lot of people playing, and I continued with them for a long time through college. Took a break to do a semester abroad and finish up my degree. All those times I was running a lot of the social media for them, running the tournaments, doing all the TOing, managing some more of our volunteers because our team had grown at that point. And I did all of our broadcasts. So if you could go back on YouTube on the High School Esports League channel and you find old broadcasts from like 2017, 2018, all 8, 9, 10 hours of that was me sitting at my computer in a dorm room with OBS, just solo producing the whole thing. um, while like one or two other people kind of herded sheep with the players and the casters. And was doing a whole lot of that with HSEL and hyper focusing on the high school space. It grew so rapidly to the point where it wasn't just you get a random group of players. It was now, okay, your school signs up and you're 5 players from your school, and we verify it's a real school, and we make sure you're actually real high school kids, because early on that was a major issue. There are so many like random players who would come in. Nobody's notable that cheated the high school space out of gift card money, but you'd have college age kids going in there, or ESEA lower end, but good enough to beat kids who are just interested in the game. That all kind of stopped when we were able to verify the schools and start partnering with them, and there was scholarship money, thousands, tens of thousands, got up to like hundreds of $1,000s a year in scholarship money. And yeah, took a break, did my semester abroad, graduated, and started back with them. They're now Generation Esports, on their product team and building their software products, to where we host all the tournaments. We came up with some new ways to run tournaments that were kind of catered more to high schools, because they really weren't as into it as pro teams. These were volunteer teachers, and sometimes the timing had to be flexible for matches. You couldn't say you play at 5 o'clock because things happen in high school. Maybe they have sports. Maybe something happened in classes. A parent said, "No, you have a doctor's appointment that you forgot about, or I didn't tell you about." So, solving all of those issues from a product levels is where I landed with them and was their senior product manager up until almost a year ago at this point, almost, when they unfortunately went under, and the company that acquired them did not take in any esports people. So that was where I put kind of a pause on my full time in esports and moved on to what I'm doing now.
Damn.
TLDR of the journey. I have to dive into more in detail wherever you want, but that's the quick and dirty.
No, that's good, guy. And it makes me sad that high school esports isn't getting more love, because that is going to be for all of us that love like our esports regions and want to see NA grow. Getting high schoolers playing LAN events against each other is gonna make us better on the world stage, and we have those resources in this region. They just need to be diverted in that direction to where we're building a pipeline that grows for generations to come, instead of cycling through the same 20 players over the last 10 years that obviously we love seeing them, and the majority of I would say everyone that's up there deserves to be there still and everything, but the cat's got to be a part of this conversation here. But it's it's important to get, and you see it in other esports, right? Other esports are having success in high school, but
yeah,
Counter-Strike is a little bit of a tough sell.
It's a tough sell because, not even the shooter aspect, it's the terrorist and counter-terrorist aspect. That's the hard
terrorist and counter-terrorist.
The hardest part of it. And there are schools that don't want any shooters. They wouldn't even take Valorant. And we always took the stance. It was really the big two were Generation Esports, the High School Esports League, and Play Versus. Play Versus historically has taken a stance of, we will not operate shooters at all. We won't give you that choice. HSEL gave you the choice. We went to the schools and said, here are the available titles. If you don't want the shooters, you don't have to play them. If you don't play them, you'll never have to see them or touch them. That's how it is. But we're not going to restrict other kids from playing them, because Counter-Strike is the biggest, one of the biggest esports on the professional scene out there. That would be like blocking a hockey team or a football team in a high school, because, well, you can get injuries or it's a little bit violent. Well, those are the best opportunities that you can have as a sports player. We have a very similar stance on something like Counter-Strike, towards we understand the content isn't quite school friendly, but you also have to understand that this is esports. This is one of the biggest ones out there. We can't hold those opportunities. Valorant's probably a better example for that age demographic, unfortunately. But we're not going to restrict what you can play because certain schools have different philosophies on what they want in the classroom. It's completely up to the schools. You run it, you do you. Um, Unfortunately, HCL being gone, it's very much a question mark of will we be seeing those shooters be able to continue successfully. And from everything I've heard, I think we'll still continue to see them. I don't know about Counter Strike though, which is a concern. But Play Versus is the one who acquired the high school esports league after Generation Esports went under, and being the ones who have historically been against running shooters, it is a big question mark and a big concern I have for that space because, to your point, it's a great opportunity for young people to kind of get into it early, even getting early LAN experience. We'd fly the best teams in the country out to, at the time, Kansas City, to play on LAN, which is an opportunity that's very rare for kids at those age, or even at that skill level. They're still learning, a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean that's and I think that that's an important part of the ones that are like proving themselves to be good at that young age as well, right? Is learning about the traveling and like going and playing in a foreign
Yeah.
place where you're okay, you've traveled for the last 24 hours for the last 24 hours. Now it's time to like still be
Well,
mentally on point and play the game, right?
even like the small nuanced things that you don't think of until you're there or you're in esports is I'll remember there were multiple times where I had parents come up to me at LAN and be like, these lights are distracting, like can you stop with like the light, because we had the stage lights for the entertainment, and we're like, no, sorry, this is we understand they're distracting, but this is the LAN environment. We're not shining spotlights in your face, but it was just like out of the corner of their eye, they could see the flashing lights sometimes, or a light would change, or something would happen between rounds, or they're sometimes they're trash talking, and that was another stance we took, was as long as you're not being offensive or saying heinous shit, friendly banter was allowed, and that was something that was a culture shock to a lot of people. And so those little nuanced things like that are like those are the things that you don't know until you're up there, and they do take getting used to. If you're not used to being on stage, you see the people watching you. It's not just, I know I'm being streamed on Twitch, but I can't see the eyes in front of me. So all of those things, to your point, the mental of it is so important to learn and practice and get experience with early on in your career. Otherwise, you see these tier 3 teams kind of get their first taste of LAN, or tier 2 teams get their first taste of LAN and either bomb out, and the mental takes a hit, and a lot of them end up disbanding or making unnecessary roster changes. So yeah, it's those opportunities are just going to continue to be so important for, like you said, especially NA Counter Strike that needs more in this space.
Yeah, well, and the thing is no matter what, like even if it feels like right now times are tough, I like Counter Strike is something that doesn't die. Like
Oh
Counter
yeah.
Strike is the ultimate video game. It is like I still, my friend quit playing it like 8 or 9 years ago, and like I know he's thinking about playing CS2, but like now it's like on principle he won't re-download it. But like I still try to get him to play because it's like, dude, there's no other game like it. There's just nothing there. Everything else that is out that's like Counter Strike is an imitator. Like
Well,
Counter Strike flawlessly executed it originally, and it will never die. So like while it's going through a lull right now, I really believe that it's gonna see this kind of really beautiful renaissance as
yeah.
esports as a whole will go up. I feel like Counter Strike, Dota, League of Legends, and StarCraft are like, well, and now probably Rocket League, for the love of God, are like um Bitcoin is to the rest of cryptocurrency. Like any cryptocurrency that goes up, Bitcoin is also by default going to go up as more
Yeah.
people know about these things, right?
Yeah, well, it's Counter Strike is also does what nobody else does, and they keep it simple. It is a pure as you can get shooter. You have 5 people fighting another 5 people. You shoot at each other. You throw some grenades, and that's it. All these other games and these imitators, Valorant's a great example. They add these gimmicks with abilities and characters and all these complexities that either create a larger learning curve to get into the game, or it's something that some you're always gonna have a group of people that loves it. But I tried Valorant when it started. It's something that's not for me, but it's gimmicky and well, gimmicky is maybe a bit of a personal opinion, but it's something that gets old to a lot of people. Is you get in, you have these nuances, you have these things you can do. Overwatch was the same way. Um, all these Smite you even think about kind of died down after a while. And another side of it is Valve isn't releasing a new Counter Strike every couple of years. They look at CS2, they updated it because finally they said, all right, we kind of need to update the technology to get with the times. But a Call of Duty is releasing once every year or so now, and it just they change stuff and
Has
things
it has
change.
been for I think 25 years now.
Yeah, so it's like they leave it alone and let it ride. They don't change. They don't try to fix what's not broken, which a lot of publishers don't do. And to what we were talking about earlier, Valve doesn't try to get too involved in things and ruin scenes. Overwatch is a great example of that one with how the Overwatch League was run. Is that so many of these publishers want all their hands in it, and then they end up blowing up the scene. People lose trust, and it never really recovers. Valve has the VRS is the first time they've made any meaningful change um, in a good way since they banned the franchise leagues back when it was I think it's Flashpoint was really starting to blow up.
Yeah, I think it's I would love to see Riot and Valve like if there could be like some balance of because Riot's like effective at what they do, but they're the opposite end of the spectrum. They're like heavy-handed, and they're like
Yeah,
everything is through Riot, right? Like every little detail is through Riot. They're still successful at running what they're doing over there, right? In both League of Legends and Valorant, but Valve is the opposite end where they're like very hands off as much as possible. If there could be like a happy medium of like just a little more hands on, but like still pretty hands
well
off.
the happy medium would be because it's with how locked down it is, and this is where Riot fails is there's really no good. I mean, it's a lot better for Valorant than it is for League, and I think it's a lot better in Europe than it is for NA. But compared to Counter Strike, Path to Pro is so difficult to get into. It's not really there because you have some tier 2 going and you have some organizers, but it's a lot more difficult to play in lots of tournaments and have these teams and get into it, especially these franchise spots. It's not something to where you can have a team make a dream run up to the major. You have to spend time getting up into challenger, and then it's what they make 2 spots available every couple of years. Is what it is for Valorant or whatever that system is, and it hyper limits the ability to get up into that tier 1 and really climb in there. But you look at the events they run; is they're super well ran. They're consistent with their tier 1 events. So yeah, having that median of if Valve was like, this is how every tier 1 events can be run, and there's downsides to that as well. Is you look at how they run is that from a viewership perspective, I feel like they can get a bit stale. You don't have like the special things that Blast does in terms of stage layouts and broadcast design and talent they bring on. That doesn't really change in a lockdown league. Which keeps really good talent in and keeps things consistent, but you don't get a lot of people rising up. You don't have like the Scrawnies coming up when he came up. He came up so fast. These all these tier 2 teams that are getting up. Players getting called up into players. You look like Sixy is a great example when Complexity made those moves. It feels a lot more rare in esports outside of Counter Strike, and yeah, there's things you can do well, but I'm always just so hesitant for going towards any sort of franchise model or having the publishers too involved in the esport. I'm always a big proponent of make the game, make it well, let the community run itself, be involved where you want to, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, and my whole thing is just make sure Valve is staying consistent on
Yeah.
this VRS system. That is going to be their necessary duty after rolling this out. But we'll see how it goes. It's gonna have flaws. And the other thing too is if you only like get your VRS news from like Twitter or like it, it's gonna feel like it's all doom and gloom because the people getting screwed over by it are kind of the loudest about it right now,
That's with
which
everything in esports. Yeah, it's if you
that's
only look
everything
at
in the
Twitter,
world.
yeah, it's true. If you only are getting information from social media, you're gonna have a very miserable viewpoint on the world in general. It's because to your point, it's always the vocal minority of people complaining because if you're happy with things, a lot of people they're just gonna go on with their lives. They're not gonna get on social media and talk about how happy they are with something. But if something goes wrong, they're going to talk about it and they're going to be loud about it. We are very familiar with that in the Scholastic space.
Oh, I can only imagine what it was like dealing with high schoolers.
Oh my god!
All right. Well, Brennan, I only have a couple more questions here for you, and then we're gonna wrap it up because it's gonna be time to go play a league match here in old Open 1 through 8. Your boy's gonna make playoffs. Don't worry.
I believe in you.
We'll make a deep run in Open 1 through 8 playoffs, hopefully. But to wrap things up here, I only have a couple of questions left here for you. And first off, I really appreciate you coming on and having this Yap Sesh. It's been wonderful to talk to you again and see you again. But my first question for you is, where does the name KrittR come from?
It is something that has pretty much no meaning. It was I was looking for a name when I was in like middle school, and I was just reading words and said that word sounds cool. How can I make it look esports? And that's how we ended up with the spelling KrittR. I wish it had a better meaning to it, but it was just fishing for things I thought was sounded cool when I was in like middle school. So here we are with it.
Well, I like it. All right, you ready for this last question here?
Of course, hear it.
Okay, my last question for you is, if you could talk to a younger version of yourself and give them some advice, what would it be? What would it be? It can be esports or Counter-Strike or life or anything related. Whatever. This is your opportunity to get on a soapbox and preach.
I think it would be follow your gut a bit more. I think I'd be in a lot more comfortable position in career wise if I kind of read the writing on the wall a lot more. Especially when it came to Scholastic, I stuck around through a lot of bad, um, and I stuck around for it just because I was in esports and that was a dream. But the reality was, I was kind of on a sinking ship, and there were a lot of times where I was thinking, well, I'm going to stay in it for the league, or I'm going to stay in it for this. But following your gut and really making moves that are better for myself, um, it's something I think I learned a little too late in my career, in my life. Of focus on yourself. Don't you know? You don't have to stick around on the sinking ship. Those stock options in the private company are going to be worthless anyway if it's going down. So I think that's one of the biggest things. If I were to go back of even get out of Scholastic as a full time professional earlier, focus more on maybe the creator space or things like Fragmentalfia and doing more TO things. Um, I think I would have been in a bit more comfortable position. I'm good now. I'm all good now, but I definitely was in a sticky situation, especially when Generation Esports went under. We all of a sudden were without jobs. Um, there were definitely moves I could have made to better myself, both as a professional in the product management space, but also within esports that I didn't do early on. That I kind of wish I went back and did, but I'm at a good job now. I have a good company. I still have all my contacts in esports. I still try to stay involved in Philadelphia, so it all ended up working out. But there's definitely things I could have done previously that would have bettered it for me instead of focusing on the company or the league I was in.
Read the writing on the wall, folks. That's important life advice. Yeah. Well, and everything happens for a reason. You're still a young man that's grinding his way through it, and you're obviously very good at networking and getting to know people and making connections. So
Yeah, and I'll be back in esports eventually. Just taking my hiatus for a full time position, taking my quick hiatus, kind of doing my volunteering and networking, waiting for the space to settle out a little bit. But we landed on our feet for sure.
makes sense to me. All right, dude. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing the Brennan Wright story and just like in Hot Ones here, this camera, this camera, this camera. If you want to go ahead and we don't actually have cameras up here, but if you want to let the people know where to find you, what you got going on, any plugs or shout outs you want to do before we go,
Yeah,
grip it and rip it, baby.
hey, I'm all over social media. I pretty much exclusively post on Twitter these days. It's at KrittR, KrittR. You can find me on Blue Sky, at Instagram, whatever else. But I can't promise you'll see posts from that. I definitely have some stuff coming up, staying more involved in the creator space. But you're kind of just seeing where things take me right now.
Hell yeah. All right, dude. Well, thank you very much, and thank you all at home for watching. That is it. Okay.
All right, all right, all right.